sign of the sun god. In fact, it was the phallus of the sun god. What do you find when you go to George Washington's tomb or mausoleum at Mount Vernon, his estate? You find two great obelisks and the Egyptian queen's palace in miniature. Oh, that's right, an Egyptian mausoleum with obelisk and all is where our nation's first president, George Washington, was laying. Now, I want to talk to you for the rest of the time today about this architecture of Washington, D.C. And I want you to understand that I am a proud American. I love this country. And there were those who refused to participate in the satanic, Illuminist, Freemasonic cults of that day. John Adams was not a Mason. He was our nation's second president. His son, John Quincy Adams, not only refused to participate, but exposed Freemasonry and said it was indeed a Luciferian religion. And it was a danger to the American republic. Patrick Henry refused to join these secret cults. Remember Patrick Henry? He was the one that said, "Give me liberty or give me death." He considered the founding of America, at least the Constitution that these people promulgated, as treachery and a betrayal of the American Revolution. And if it were not for some good Christian men and women, we would not have our Bill of Rights, because the aristocracy who gave us the Constitution of the United States did not have a Bill of Rights in it. It had to be added on. Why do you think it's called the 10 Amendments to the Constitution? The original Constitution had no freedoms and liberties prescribed for you and me, but there were people, good Christian people, good patriotic, freedom-loving people who said no to the aristocrats in America. They knew this was a Rothschild plot. A lot of people don't think about that. But ask your congressman someday when he comes back and visits your county or your town or your village. Hey, why did they have to add 10 amendments to the original Constitution? Oh, well, they did that to make sure they provided you, freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom to assemble and petition. Well, why didn't they do that in the original Constitution? Why did they have to add it on afterwards? It wasn't there in the first place. It wasn't intended. And ever since, the Illuminati have sought to bypass, go around, or destroy the 10 amendments to the Constitution. They were odious and distasteful. James Madison said, well, I really don't think they're needed, but it looks like we're not going to get our Constitution passed by the people unless we agree to add 10 amendments to it. Yeah, you're right, Mr. Madison. And by the way, Madison was known as a bribe taker. He took many thousands of dollars from Haym Salomon, the agent of Rothschild. Some of these people whom we worship almost like gods today, America's founders, were demigods, not men of God at all. Now, probably the most prominent site in Washington, D.C. is that huge 555-foot tall Washington Monument. I've already told you that in my book, Mysterious Monuments, I picture the tomb or mausoleum of Washington, and it's absolutely of Egyptian origins. Now we have an Egyptian obelisk. What does it represent? It is the Washington Monument. What's that all about? Of course, I'll tell you what it's about. It represents the phallus, the sex organ of the sun god, who in Egypt was called Osiris. The Greeks called him Zeus, the sun god. And it's planted in the earth Because the earth represents the great goddess. And that's why the ancient Brits believed in the green goddess. In fact, I believe there's even some kind of a salad dressing called the green goddess. And her mate, of course, was, the great green giant, the jolly green giant, the green man. Oh, there's a lot of truths to these ancient legends and tales, my dear friends. Now, what we have then is the phallus of the sun god. The sun god who is up in the heavens somewhere. Because after all, does not the Holy Bible say that Satan is the prince of the power of the air? But he's also under the earth down in a place called hell. And the book of Revelation says at a certain time at the end of history, an angel will be given a key to the pit that lies beneath the earth, evidently, and the door will be opened to that dungeon, and out will come millions of devils. And the Bible says in Revelation they have a leader appointed over them. And in the Hebrew tongue, his name is Abaddon. And in the Greek tongue or language, his name is Apollyon. A great God in the sky, but a great God below. Two gods? Well, one God comes from the sky, metaphorically or allegorically, and he falls into the sea. The ancients taught that in the mystery religions. And he rises up out of the sea. He was the great half-man, half-fish God. This may sound strange to you, but again, we have an image here of Satan being cast out of heaven and falling into the sea and rising up and coming to land. The ancient Philistines worshipped exactly that God. They called him Dagon. D-A-G-O-N. And when one of the kings of Israel, Samuel, was slain, the Philistines cut off his head, put it on a silver platter, and brought it into their temple of Dagon. They sacrificed the king of Israel to their fish god who came up out of the sea, the beast who rose up out of the sea. He came from the heavens, though. You say that's an impossibility. That sounds like some hocus pocus. Wait, dear friends, before you call something hocus pocus, because Jesus Christ said of Satan or Lucifer, he said, I beheld Lucifer or Satan like lightning fall from heaven. He was cast down from heaven, and perhaps he landed in the sea. And his goddess also came up from the sea. She was called Aphrodite, Venus. Shell Petroleum Company, Shell Oil, Shell gas stations display her symbol. Drive by and see one of their stations, the great golden shell, the golden goddess, who rises up out of the sea. The legends of the mermaid came from that very tale. The Pope of Rome took the titles that were once bequeathed to Dagon, and even today he wears the great headdress of Dagon, the fish god. Look at some pictures and you'll see the fish's head with the mouth open. It's a huge, towering Dagon-like headdress on top of the Pope's head of Rome. The beast that rises up out of the sea. And the front cover of my book shows this same beast rising up out of the sea. It is the Sea of Chaos, which in Washington, D.C. is created or designed as a fountain of waters. Now this great fountain with this great naked, muscular, green, horned beast rising up actually sits right in front of the Library of Congress, one of the most ornate and magnificent buildings in our nation's capital. It's on the cover of my book. When I saw this many years ago, and I saw this great fountain on my visit to Washington, D.C., I could scarcely believe my eyes. The beast that rises up out of the sea, Revelation 13, verse 1, stands in front of the Library of Congress, which is considered the repository of the collective wisdom of the American people for more than 200 years. And the same great fountain preceding him, going before him, in other words, coming up out of the waters, is a great, vicious, spitting sea serpent who guides him and leads the beast. And on each side of him are heralds blowing conch shells, horns. And what are they heralding? They're heralding the emergence, the arrival, the coming of the great beast. And in what city does this fountain sit again? Washington, D.C. And in what state is the city of Washington situated? Well, there is no state. They took a little bit of Maryland and they took a little bit of Virginia and made something called the District of Columbia. Now, I want you to consider that Virginia was named after the great virgin, the goddess. Some say Mary is that same goddess. And the state of Maryland was named after Mary, also the virgin. They took from these two states the land, and they created a District of Columbia. But from where do we get the name Columbia? Well, that's another name for the goddess. And many of you have seen the movies produced by Columbia Movie Studios. You'll know of their great logo that precedes each movie. What is it? A great goddess in a flowing Roman robe stands with a great torch in her hand. Columbia! Hail, Columbia! It's the district of the great goddess of the mystery religions, Isis. She was called in Egypt Semiramis, and by other names in Babylon. And then even more names in Rome and Greece. And on over to Japan, where she was called Amaterasu. And then down in Central and South America, they worshiped a goddess. In China, she was called Kuan Yin. And who is she? She's the mistress of Satan. She's the goddess of America. And she stands atop our U.S. Capitol in Washington, D.C. This is Texe Mars. We're discussing Washington, D.C., Illuminati City of Mystery. Stay with us. We've got a lot more when we return here on Power of Prophecy. Hello again, friends. Texe Mars. You know, this book, Mysterious Monuments, is definitely the most important book I have ever written and produced. It's 624 pages, huge book. It is an encyclopedia. In fact, the subtitle is Encyclopedia of Secret Illuminati Designs, Masonic Architecture, and Occult Places. I hope you'll get a copy of this book. It has over 875 photos and illustrations. 875, and it's based on an intense, very intense, 22 years of research and investigation. And I have visited many of these sites, many of these mysterious monuments, and every once in a while you go in the book, you'll find a little picture of me somewhere there in front of one of the monuments or inside one of them, surveying it, studying it. And with each of these monuments, you not only have a picture, but you have given a description and an understanding of what it means in terms